of OA being and books being a high turnover business, and Lego being more of a kind of a less work, less turnover, but also less total sales, right? Because like if you have less turnover, you're going to have less total sales, but you'll have higher margins. So we're switching the business in that direction so that we have less workload, less turnover, but we have good margins. We probably won't net as good as we would have if we kept going for 500, 600,000 a year in sales, but we'll do reasonably well, with margins of 40%.
What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Side Hustle Experiment podcast. Today we have our friend Shane, also known as Brick Bucks across all social media. He focuses on Lego investing. So super excited to get him on. I know we always get a ton of questions about Lego, when to buy them. We hear all this stuff on Instagram of people making tons of money. And Shane is going to be here to kind of show us how he does Lego investing. So super excited about that. So thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, I'm pumped, guys. I'm pumped. I'm happy to be here.
Cool. So you want to give us a little background how you got started reselling in general, and then maybe how you stumbled into Lego investing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So I moved to the US at the end of 2016 originally from Ireland. And during that time, I was investing in stocks and, with anything that I could because I didn't really have a lot. And I moved to the US. I live in a small New York apartment with a roommate trying to get by. So I was investing in stocks and thinking that this is the American dream. This is my way to financial freedom, right? Like we all kind of start that vision of, how do I do something different in my life and how do I make, create something that is a little bit different than what they teach us about the 9 to 5, right? And so I thought stocks was it. And I spent a little while doing that, realizing that it's an 8% a year return on average. And it's going to probably take me 30 years to get wealthy. Started thinking, there's got to be a better way, and stumbled into kind of two things around the same time simultaneously happen. The first one is I was looking for Lego sets to buy for myself because I'm a Lego fan, and realized that some of the sets that I used to love when I was younger were now selling for multiples of their original values. And when I saw that, I kind of started asking these questions of what's going on here with the Lego values? When I look for a set that retired, that's what we say for manufacturing stopped on a Lego set, 5 years ago, and realizing that on eBay or Amazon today, it's selling for 5 times, 6 times multiples of its original value. And I started noticing this because I was trying to buy sets for myself for fun and realizing the values that go up. But the more I dug into it, the more I started realizing that it's kind of like a cycle, right? And that's what the part that I never understood before. We heard stories before of Lego sets go up in value. But what I didn't realize before was it's on a cycle and it's predictable.
If you want the exact spreadsheet I have used to sell over $3 million on Amazon, how I track my buys, how I track my best sources, where I put links to my favorite sites. I have a spreadsheet that I've spent the last 2-3 years building. If you want access to it, it is absolutely free. Just go to the free resources section down below this video. 100% free. Now let's get back to the podcast.
You can actually learn when a Lego set is going to retire, and then you can have a pretty good chance of the value going up soon after that happens. So you can actually learn the cycles. You can learn when it's going to happen. And if you know when it's going to happen, you can invest in it. You can buy them before the values go up. So I started realizing all these things. Right that same time in 2017, I started learning about books, selling books on Amazon. And I know you guys are well aware of that world, and and you have a lot of friends in that world. So do I, because we started off our Amazon journey selling books first. So we spent a couple of years building up a book business. Originally, we were selling cherry picking, what they say cherry picking, essentially going out to stores to find book inventory, going to Goodwills, going to used bookstores. Eventually, because we were in a small Manhattan apartment, we couldn't really run the business. We couldn't scale the business from our apartment. So we got a storage unit in the Bronx. We had a 10 by 20 storage unit we were running the book business out of. And then we moved to a warehouse. So we ended up getting a 3,000 square foot warehouse for the book business. We ended up moving to bulk bucks, doing truckloads. But so that was the Amazon, the University of Amazon, I guess, right? That was where we learned Amazon. But simultaneously realizing these values of these Lego sets and starting to buy Lego sets with the hope that we could sell those online for multiples of their original values. Just originally, we didn't do that on Amazon, funnily enough, because we were gated of selling Lego on Amazon. So we were using books to sell on Amazon. We were originally started selling Lego on eBay, but we were doing these two things kind of simultaneously. And then over time, we learned that the used book market, or the bulk book specifically, with the overhead of a warehouse and a team, is tricky. And there's a lot that you need to get right for that model to be fully scalable and to really work. And we just, it wasn't for us. It was 12-hour days for very little at the end of it because of the overhead that we had. We're in North Jersey as well, so warehouse space was expensive here and stuff, so we don't get to sell at higher prices when we sell on Amazon, but we have to pay more overhead because of our location. So we ended up pivoting everything to just Lego, because Lego, we found, had the best margins. It goes up in value over time instead of down, because most regular book inventory we were selling went down in value over time. Like a lot of the stuff, you'd have these penny wars with competition and different things. I know you guys are very well aware of this. And it's kind of frustrating when you get inventory that's highly sought after, that other sellers are undercutting each other. But then when you sell Lego sets, it's the opposite, because the set retires at a certain period of time, the supply becomes finite, and all of the sellers who are on the listing can't replenish their inventory. And so what happens is the price just goes up over time. So when we started selling Lego on Amazon, that's when we realized we could scale that a whole lot better than what we could scale the book business with less overhead, less work, better margins. And so we doubled down on Lego. Now, I know that was a long-winded answer, but that's the background. That's how we got to where we are now.
Yeah.
There was no pivot in between of just books to Legos or anything, or are you using like a 9-to-5 job to fund the Legos?
So actually, there was a stint of online arbitrage in between as well, but we did Lego and books simultaneously from the beginning. We started out with books just a little bit before the Lego, but we did them kind of simultaneously. But then with online arbitrage, we did it for about a year after we closed the bulk warehouse down. Originally, I was funding the Lego inventory with my 9-to-5 salary, but only for probably about a year. I didn't really invest a whole lot from my personal, in over the course of the last couple of years. It was just to kick it off in the beginning. Since then, it's been reinvesting profits from all of the resale business. So what we came away with from the book business, what we came away with from the OA business, as all those things have sold down, we've moved all the money into Lego inventory and continued turning it over in Lego inventory entirely. And that's how we built our business to what it is now, which is entirely Lego based.
And how much do you do a month with that?
Sorry, what was that question?
How much do you do a month with that? Like, how much Lego do you keep on hand? I guess that's another question as well. How much
so I see them as two different answers. So sales volume wise, last year we did around 250. The year before that we did around 500. So the reason we went down last year, we shrunk last year, was because of that transition. We were doing the OA for about a year, and then we decided to sell it all, move it all into Lego. Lego has a bit of a hold time. So, and we'll talk more about this, but the idea is that you hold the inventory for a while, because the retirement happens at the end of December, and then you want to hold it for 6 months because value starts to multiply. So this whole time, when we sold out of the OA and we took all our money back, we had to invest it in new inventory for Lego, and then there's a bit of a delay before we're going to sell that Lego. So there was a bit of a lull in our sales a little bit last year. But even still, because of OA and books being a high turnover business, and Lego being more of a kind of a less work, less turnover, but also less total sales, right? Because like if you have less turnover, you're going to have less total sales, but you'll have higher margins. So we're switching the business in that direction so that we have less workload, less turnover, but we have good margins. We probably won't net as good as we would have if we kept going for 500, 600,000 a year in sales, but we'll do reasonably well, with margins of 40% on 250,000 in sales. So that's around where we're at. It varies by the month because it can be seasonal. There's certain months of the year where we like to do very large shipments, and then there's other months of the year where we don't really sell much because we're focused more on buying. So it's quite different than other Amazon models in that way. You don't have this, like, the sales are not as evergreen, they're more seasonal. But then during certain periods of the year, you're going to have sudden bursts. And, our sales in Q4 last year was like half of our total sales for the year. So it really does kind of multiply at certain points of the year. Does that answer the question?
Yes, very well.
Yeah, that's really interesting too. And like, yeah, coming from the book world as well, I think there's so many misconceptions about books and media. It's so cheap to get. Like, how could you lose on a Gaylord? You're paying what, $60, let's call it, for 1,000 books. Like, how could you not get your money back? But what a lot of people don't really understand is like once you factor in warehouse, all the money goes back into the labor. Yes, like on Instagram you got this book for 50 cents and you're selling it for 60, but it took someone like 5 hours to find that book and all these other books, and then labor, warehouse, freight, all that kind of stuff
Yeah.
makes it super difficult. And that's kind of what I ran into, where it's like you're looking at it, and we got hit with, I got my warehouse as soon as COVID went full fledged, and Amazon's like,
Mm-hmm.
no more items to the warehouse unless they're essential. And then
Yep.
we had to move to merchant fulfilled, and I was like, I did not start selling on Amazon to send out 100, 150 books every morning. Like, that's not what I want to
Yeah.
do.
John, I didn't realize we had the exact same story, because that, like, we were the exact same. We opened the warehouse in 2020,
Damn.
and we had the same thing. Amazon made those changes, and in 2021, I think it was when they had the restock limit changes as
Yeah.
well, which really killed books. Like, that made it very tricky. So we did the same thing. We pivoted entirely to merchant fulfilled. We had, we kitted out the warehouse and shelving. We did, we really tried to make a very good attempt at it. Like, we had a great setup with a great inventory system and the shelving, and we invested in all the right equipment and machinery, and we have a lot of great friends who are doing great things in this business as well, who were advising us along the way. But I think for us, some of the challenges were down to the labor side of things. Like I said, the warehouse was expensive for sure, but the team was really difficult. Like, managing a team, because your margins in books are not big enough for you to pay high quality, like, hourly wages. Like, you can't really be paying. I mean, there's probably people watching this who are saying, yes, you can. You just got to make up the money elsewhere. But the way our experience was, we couldn't pay premium wages to our team. Like, we couldn't get $25 an hour people. So when you're talking about minimum wage people, we were paying 15 or whatever it was at the time. You get minimum wage quality, and so the quality wasn't there. We weren't getting enough speed out of the people who were doing the Gaylords. There was just a lot of stuff with the team that we struggle with, and that would be my thought. Like, if anyone watching this is aiming to go into bulk books, it's like, you got to get that team, you got to get the team down, and you got to invest the time and money and energy into getting that team to be locked down with proper systems, with proper, with the right tools that they need, with hopefully good morale. Like, there's all these different things that you got to think about, but the team is so important in bulk books.
Yeah, and when you're kind of just like going through books and scanning books, it's a really monotonous job. It's really hard to get people excited about, like, because if you find a book that's selling for $80, like, that's not really good for them. That's good for
Yeah.
you, right? So like that
Mm-hmm.
dopamine kind of goes away. And yeah, that was kind of my thought too when Amazon's like, you can't send books to the warehouse. I was like, I never want to be in this situation again. Like, I want to be
Yep.
in the situation where, like, how do I figure out how to sell essential goods or stuff they're taking or just anything? So I'm never in this situation again. So that's really
Yep.
funny. And that was kind of my like ideation, was just like, all right, if you had to blow this thing up, it's like, oh, one, you need more warehouse space. Two, you need, I don't know, maybe 5 times the amount of workers. Like the amount to do a truckload. We got up to like a truckload and a half every week. And then it was like, oh, how do you do a truckload every week? And then the thing that really killed our business was the recycling, because people stopped picking up recycling because all those factories couldn't get workers. They couldn't process paper. It depended on what state. We had 2 people in different states. So they had different labor laws, like who could work, who couldn't work. And then we ended up, I think, so terrible. Our warehouse was full of duds. We had about 60 or 70 Gaylords full of duds. And like we were
Ooh.
just stacking and stacking. Like, cause like with books too, when you have a supplier, you need to keep him happy. Like, you got to keep buying for them or they're going to go to someone else. And then eventually I was like, dude, like, there's no space for more books. Like, and then he did me such a big favor and he took all the duds. I literally met him like 3 a.m. every week, every day for a week, and he took all 60. I don't know what he did with them. He probably recycled them or resold them or whatever. But that was the only way I was able to keep going. And then I was like, there's just too much that has to align to make this business work. Whether it's like getting rid of the books, getting new books, getting help. Like, we're on such a tight frame. Like, all the books really came, I think they came on like Friday or Monday. It was either Monday or Friday. It was like day one, like Monday, Tuesday were processing. Wednesday would be like listing. Thursday's eBay. Fridays clean up, get rid of all of them, and then Monday the next thing starts. And if one of those things falls out of place, like, you're kind of screwed.
Yeah. It's really not easy. And anyone who's watching here who has done bulk books got the shivers when you said 60 to 70 pallets of duds. Like, we know what that stress feels like. We know what that's like. When we first started out of the storage unit, we didn't have a recycler yet. And so we were just putting Facebook Marketplace posts up of like free boxes of books. We had these giant boxes full, but people would come pull up their car to the dock of the storage unit and literally push the boxes into the back and just fill their car with books. But like, having to manage all of that stuff, it's a lot. Yeah. And then when we did get a recycler, it was during the time, because of the supply chain problems and everything, they weren't paying for paper.
Yeah.
So it was free. So we weren't getting paid for the recycling. We were just giving them for free. We wanted someone to just come and take the Gaylords. And so that just made me like think a lot of the success in bulk books of the businesses that really made a big thing out of it happened during a time which was a whole lot better. The environment was just a whole lot better than what it was during the time when we were doing it. I'm not exactly sure how it's improved recently, but during that particular time when we had the warehouse was when Amazon stopped taking pallets, FBA, so we had the MF stuff, was when recyclers weren't paying. Just wasn't. And there was also a lot of attention on book selling as well. So there was a lot of just a lot of supply out there, and I don't know, it just wasn't for us. Also, what we didn't mention is when you're doing bulk books, like, it's not a clean job. You know what I mean? It's not like, firstly, it's a lot of hard work, but secondly, it's a dirty job, right? Like, you're in the Gaylords. Like, we actually didn't even get our dumper working during the time. We had it for a year sitting in a corner because it needed different electrical. So we had a dumper not even working. So we were climbing into pallets, which was just the most inefficient thing ever. And we really should have prioritized the efficiencies, of course. And that's a big part of eventually why we weren't moving enough volume to make it, past the overhead. But when you're dealing with these Gaylords, you're finding dirty shoes and stuff like this in the Gaylords and stuff. When I eventually we moved entirely to Lego, and we're dealing with these beautifully clean stackable boxes in our business, like, it's just so much better. And I think anyone doing OA or RA and stuff, like, they probably agree, dealing with clean product, new condition product, it's a lot better than selling used condition product.
For sure. And like, I feel like getting like a package from Lego is almost getting like an Apple product. Like, they just package so nice. Like, there's a nice little invoice. It's like, what? And the box looks so nice. You're like, oh man, this is like so cool. But then off to Amazon.
The challenge becomes not building it. Like, just this is inventory.
Do you still have a team? Do you keep any of your team with you now that you're doing the Lego, or is it just solo? That's what I assumed it was.
No, it's just me and my wife. So my wife does run a lot of the day-to-day. I still have a day job, so I'm part-time on the business. She's full-time. So she quit back when we were opening the warehouse, and she actually ran the entire warehouse while I still had a full-time job. So she has stayed full-time on the business. And now, because we make content about this stuff as well. So we have kind of two angles to the business. There is the Lego investing business, the Amazon selling, and then there is the making YouTube videos about it and talking about it online. And that's what we call Breakbucks. And she helps with both. So I'm the dancing monkey on screen for Breakbucks, talking about how great this stuff is. But behind the scenes, she's doing a lot of the video editing and that sort of stuff. And then with the Amazon business, she's doing orders every day. She's doing shipments every day. She's managing the storage of the inventory and all of those things.
Nice. Yeah, so I guess overall, you call it a business. Do you think it's more of a business, or you think it's more of an investment vehicle? Because, like, really, with how hands off a lot of it is kind of like an investment vehicle. That's what I did at OA
Mhm.
for a really long time, and I told people, specifically guys that came to me with a lot of money, I'm like, if you don't want to grind every day, you need to find some like discontinued products in general, specifically Lego, obviously, because that's the kind of the biggest one. And like, you can
Mhm.
run this thing an hour or two a week and make
Yep.
like way more money per hour than you grinding 40 hours a week OA to make whatever
Yes.
amount per month. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I see it right in the middle of both. That's the way I've always thought about it. I think of it as half investing, half running an e-commerce business, because you still need to have the language of both. You need to understand investing language like return on investments, compounding, like the kind of things that we got to think about in investing, because there is a hold time. And anytime you buy something, wait a while and then sell it, it's an investment. If there's a hold time, it's an investment. So it's definitely an investment, but it's still an e-commerce business as well, because you're selling on Amazon. You got to learn how to get ungated. You got to learn how to do FBA shipments. You're selling product. So it's both. And I see it right in the middle of both. Like if you understand a little bit about investing, or you're interested in learning a little bit about investing, and you understand Amazon, then, this is perfect, because it's right in the middle of both of those things.
So in terms of that, then how do you allocate the capital between I'm putting in the stock market, I'm putting into Legos, or do you just do 100% like Legos?
I do a lot more Lego than anything else. I still do invest in stocks, but mostly it's in retirement accounts. And I like real estate as well. Like I've actually got a couple of units of real estate. So I'm very well versed in those things. Like I watch a lot of finance channels and different things. So I'm watching the stock market all the time for what I'm going to do in my retirement accounts. I'm buying real estate with kind of a lot of cash, like my free cash flow as well. But with the Lego, I found that the return on investment far surpasses those other things. Because there's sets that retired, like a lot of times the sets stop manufacturing at the end of the year. There's kind of two parts of the year where there's a lot of retirement. We call it retirement. It just means end of life or end of manufacturing. July and December, typically. And at the end of December, just in 2023, we had like all of these sets retire. And now I'm selling some of those sets 5, 6 months later for almost doubling my money, like 100% return. Now, when I look at my stocks, I'd have to get very, very lucky. I'd have to get very lucky to be able to do that. And it's speculation, really, to try and do that in stocks. It's risky. If you want to try and double your money with stocks, you're going to pick a penny stock or some terrible company. Because if you put it in a well-acclaimed company, like a large company, you're not going to double your money in a year. Typically, the return on investment in the stock market is somewhere between 8 and 10% on average. And with real estate, it's probably somewhere around 10%. So I can't do in those other places what I'm able to do with Lego. Of course, there's more work, but when you learn Amazon, you already know it because of the other business that we had. The work is not that, it's not hard, right? We know how to do FBA shipments, like we know how to handle these things. So it's really not hard. So for me, it makes much more sense to just double down on Lego as much as possible. But at the same time, the business is kind of self-sustaining itself now, and it's growing on its own accord because I'm reinvesting profits. So with my like salary money, I don't really put any of my own money into it. So that's the kind of money that I would invest in real estate. So I do have a kind of a balanced approach to different investments. But if I was just to pick one or the other, it would be Lego all day long.
Wow.
There's also less guesswork, like because you can learn how to do it well. Like with stocks, sometimes you could try your best to learn everything there is to know about picking a good stock, and then you could buy Tesla, and tomorrow Elon could put out a tweet, or he could say, I'm done. I'm not, they didn't approve my salary and I'm done. And then tomorrow your stock will cut in half, like the money that you just invest. So it's not in your control, but with like to an extent, right? That's why you diversify and everything. Like there's strategies you can have, but it's really like a lot of it is not in your control. So what a lot of the stock market investors tell you to do is just buy the indexes, buy the whole market funds. Don't buy individual stocks because it's too risky. Buy a broad range of different stocks so you can be guaranteed that you won't go down and different things. Then you're talking about 8 to 10% return. But with Lego, you can learn how to do a really good job of it. You can learn how to pick the best sets because I actually have tricks, I have tools, different things that can help me to learn which of the sets are most likely to go up in value the most. And then secondly, you can learn how to buy them at really low prices. And if you just develop that skill set of learning how to buy a set for 30% off, then it's like going out and buying Tesla for 30% off, but you can do it whenever you want to do it because you've learned how. You've mastered how to use cashback sites, how to use credit cards, all these strategies that we learn when we're doing OA and different things. All those skill sets that you have will allow you to buy Lego inventory at 30% off. And then when it goes up in price and it goes up by 50%, you just built yourself an 80% margin, from thin air. And I can't do that in stocks. You know what I mean?
Yeah, your downside is higher in stocks. Like the Lego, no matter what happens, unless Lego just goes, I guess they would bankrupt, probably help you even more. There's almost no scenario where the Lego set would go down more than it can't lose 50% of its value. It's like not even possible. Even worst case scenario, like, the stuff comes out. Some Star Wars woman said something that was like conservative and people trashed her. And then her Lego set just like flew up in the air because like she was in that. So it's like, even with bad news, that stuff gets better. So yeah, it's like there's limited downside and more upside. I've always thought about in the future, it's like I could easily just buy like 10K of Lego every month and just like let it ride out, just like it was an investment. And it'd be fun, just, kind of deal with it.
Yeah, exactly. Downside is like, and I don't like saying this because it sounds too good to be true, right? And I don't like talking about this as if it's too good to be true. There's a lot of hard work involved with Lego investing. There's a lot of hard work involved with any online reselling and e-commerce business. So I want to make sure everyone understands that. There is hard work, but at the same time, the downside, what you just said, is totally true. The downside is so small, especially when you learn how to get them at good prices. Because if you can buy it 30% below retail, then manufacturing stops. Typically, the worst you'll do is sell it for retail. And if you sell it for retail, you get your cost back. Like after Amazon fees, after everything, you get your money back. But typically it's very rare that it's not going to go up in price. More often than not, you're going to sell it way higher than that. But even the losers, even the sets that you buy that are not the best sets, you're definitely going to at least be able to sell it for retail and get your money back. So what investment can you think of that the worst case scenario is getting your money back? And if you buy 20 sets and you get your money back on 2 of them and the other 18 have gone up double the price, you know what I mean? Like your business overall is going up and to the right. And so that's the way that we've experienced it. And again, like I said, I don't like saying that because it sounds too good to be true, but that's what we've literally experienced. And the only times we've lost money on a Lego investment has been when we intentionally decided to liquidate something because the retirement date maybe got pushed out a little bit. So sometimes Lego Group, they plan to retire a set this December, and then the sales are really strong. So they decide, oh, you know what, we're going to keep it until next December. That can happen. But later in the year, it becomes more solid. Like the retirement dates become pretty well accurate. But if you buy a little too early, sometimes and the date can get pushed, then you're going to have to wait a little longer before you sell. Most people would just wait. Like you could just put it in storage and wait, and then eventually it'll still go up in value. But because we understand, we want this to be a business, we want to turn over the inventory and stuff. Sometimes if that happens, we just decide to liquidate it and sell it, and sometimes you have to sell for a couple dollars loss a unit. But the reason we decide to do that is because we understand if we take the money back now, put it in a different set that is retiring this year, and then that one doubles in price, then overall it will be a net positive. Like we won't lose money overall, right? We just lose money initially a little bit so that we can make a lot more faster and have faster turnover. But again, other people in our communities just wait whenever that happens. So like, it's not even the biggest deal whenever it does happen.
Yeah, I don't think what you're saying sounds too good to be true. I know you're like, I don't want to sound like overzealous, but the thing is, it's like intrinsic value in the products. Like no matter what, like a Lego, like somebody can play with it. It's like different like crypto or stocks. Like there's no actual value there. Like it's just like numbers on a screen. So yeah, it's like even the worst comes to worst, you could sell it on Facebook. Like absolutely, it's got intrinsic value with it. So to me, it makes a lot of sense like that.
And the sales volume is mind blowing on Lego sets. Like it's crazy, especially in Q4, but all year round. Like it's the hottest toy brand in the world. And if you look at a sales chart of Lego Group sales, I thought 15 years ago that Lego was a big company, but if you look at a sales chart, they were like this 15 years ago. And like the trajectory that this company had been on for the last 15, 20 years, as they've partnered with every big brand out there. They even had a partnership with Harley Davidson. Like name a brand and Lego have done some sort of partnership with them. They made Adidas shoes last year as a Lego set.
Yeah.
And so the more they do that, the more Lego Group are tapping into audiences of all these big brands. And now Minecraft fans have become Lego fans. Star Wars fans are Lego fans. Harry Potter fans are Lego fans because they're releasing all these sets, tapping into every audience that's out there and pulling them into the Lego world. And so demand is growing year over year over year. People searching on Amazon for Lego sets is growing year over year over year. But again, the sets, when they stop getting manufactured, supply cannot grow. And then what happens is Lego Group, because they're really wise to this stuff, they understand that, people want to collect multiple sets. So they intentionally build collectability into the set. So they will release, like, let's say 10 sets that are similar. So you want to collect them all. So last year, or the last couple of years, for example, they've had this series of Star Wars sets. They're called the Star Wars Helmet series, and they're based on the helmets from the Star Wars characters. You can get the Darth Vader helmet, the Boba Fett helmet, and they have this big range of them. There's been 11 of them in the last couple of years. And they release a couple of new ones every year. What happens is the old ones get retired, right? So the first year that they came out, 2021, the TIE Fighter pilot helmet and the Stormtrooper helmet both retired that year. They stopped manufacturing. Then the following year, they released the new sets. They got the new Luke Skywalker and the new helmet series. And then what happens is Lego fans, they flock to the stores to buy the new sets, the new Luke Skywalker, and they get really excited about buying Luke Skywalker and the Commander Cody and the Darth Vader. And then they realize, oh man, I need a Stormtrooper because I want to fill out my shelf here. I need a Stormtrooper. Where's the Stormtrooper? Is it not available? They go on eBay. They see Stormtrooper retired last year. Now it's selling for $150. It was $50 on the shelves a year ago. Now it's $150. But I want it for my collection. I can't have the collection without the Stormtrooper. So they got to buy it. And Lego Group know that the collectability value is going to keep fans coming back and buying more and more products. So when you understand those things, you invest in the sets that have strong collectability, strong demand, because in the future, when it stops manufacturing, the new stuff that gets released is going to drive more demand back to the old stuff. And the only place that demand can go is Amazon to the third-party sellers.
I think I have a few of those TIE Fighter things in my closet, so I probably need to check the value of those. It's back in 2021, 2020 and 2021. I came
the TIE Fighter pilot helmet.
Yeah.
That's selling for like $400 right now.
Yeah, I've got loads of this stuff in my closet at my parents' house because in 2020, 2021, I just saw this Lego stuff and I thought, this is perfect. I'm going to make loads of money. I didn't know these cycles and how this works. So I just bought like $15K worth of shit because I didn't have any expenses. I thought it'd be good. Now they're all just stuck in this closet. I know I have probably 15 grand of Olivia's Cupcake Factory. That one was like supposed to be good. It's still trash. So I just bought everything and I was like, I didn't know anything about it. So a lot of them, they're going to be good one day, I'm sure. Right now they're pretty trash, but I do have some stuff like that sitting around as well. Probably need to look at it, but yeah, I was into it for a little while.
Yeah. You gotta kind of look at there's a couple of different things I look at to pick the right sets. I love looking at stuff that has lower supply, even when it's on the shelves. So the TIE Fighter pilot helmet, it was exclusive to Target while it was available. And so if you wanted to buy it, you had to go to Target or Lego stores. And what happens when it's exclusive is they manufacture fewer of them, right? During the shelf life of this set, they manufacture fewer of the TIE Fighter pilot than any of the other helmets because TIE Fighter, they only had to meet the demand in Target. So they make less of them. And then in the aftermarket, the collectability is still really strong. People still really want it. The demand is still super strong. But the aftermarket has fewer of them available, so the supply is lower. So that's one of the big things I look for. I look for sets that have lower supply, exclusive, or short shelf life. Some sets, they only stay on the shelves for like 6 months, 9 months. And like short shelf life can mean also less manufactured and less out there in the aftermarket. I look for strong demand, strong collectability. We can look at things like sales rank on Amazon, Google Trends data to tell us about whether the audience loves the set or not. Like there's a handful of different things we can check to give us a good indication of that. Also, things like price can really change it. So like expensive Lego sets, as you all know, right? Lego sets can go up to $800. Like there's sets selling for $500, $600, $800. And the return on investment you can get will vary based on different things like that. So more expensive sets, like for example, the Stranger Things set, the upside down Stranger Things set, was a $200 set. And I bought it for $200. I bought a lot of them, probably, well, actually not a lot for today's standards. I buy a lot of units of sets more now than I ever did before. I've learned that I can go pretty deep and still sell through everything. But back then I bought probably 15 of them, and it was a $200 set. And within 6 months it was selling for 500. And the reason that happened is because it retired at the end of December. In April, no, I think it was June, in May or June, Stranger Things season 4 was released. And the only one Lego set that was around at the time for Stranger Things, was not being manufactured anymore. But the show went viral. Like, it was all over TikTok. Like, it went crazy. Everybody loved season 4. And so the demand for the Lego set went through the roof. And all that demand had to go to Amazon and eBay and buy third-party seller inventory. So you had the price go from 200 to 600 within 6 months because season 4 got released right after the set retired. Those are things we can predict. Like, we can see that coming. We can see a set's going to retire at the end of the year, and the new movie is going to come out in March next year. That's going to, bring new demand, new excitement. It's not always going to mean the price is going to double, but it's certainly more often than not will mean there's going to be a surge in demand. And if there's a surge in demand in the retirement of a Lego set, then all that demand goes to the third-party sellers. That means the lowball sellers sell out quicker. It means, the price quickly starts to go up because all those lowballers sell out, and then a lot of the supply starts to sell out, and it goes up to the people who have the prices set higher. So those are things that I look out for. I think about things like, is the supply a little bit extra constrained, like it's an exclusive set? Is there going to be a pop in demand in the future that might, make something like that happen?
How do you go by what kind of data, are you using any tools? Like, how do you kind of determine that, whether you think it's going to be good or not, or just kind of the knowledge you've accumulated?
Yeah, I can share a couple. There's a few different things that I check. Like, there's like 16 signals, which I sat down and identified. Actually I wrote them all into a book. I've got literally a book about how to pick sets, because there's 16 different considerations that I had. But when I boil it down, there's really probably more like 4 or 5 that will get you 80% of the way there. Like, you'll get, half the battle with just understanding a couple things, like what I just talked about with supply and demand. And some of the tools that I can use to check those things are Keepa, which I know everyone here is familiar with, the most important Amazon tool for a lot of people, but you can see similar things from other similar tools like SellerAmp or, Jungle Scout and different things. When it comes to sales volume, right? Because you can compare set A against set B while they're available on the shelves to understand that set A is a much faster seller than set B, right? The same kind of skills that we do for OA, for book selling, for all of those different things, understanding the sales volume. If you see when the sets are still available on the shelves, and you compare similar sets against each other, and you see one of them is selling like double fast than the other one, then that's a really good thumbs up for set A, right? Like, that's because that means even after manufacturing stops, the demand is more likely to be sustained, right? Because people love it, people want it, and it's selling so fast on Amazon. So sales rank is amazing. We can see it in Keepa. We can see it in a handful of other tools. Some of the tools, of course, are going to give us other numbers that tell us the same thing. Like Scout IQ gives us eScore, like stuff like that. But it's the same thing, right? It's like, how fast is this set selling? Is it selling better than other similar sets at a similar price point? It's important to compare stuff at the similar price point, because a $200 set is going to sell fewer units than a $10 set. So we need to compare similar price points. So if I'm thinking about investing in one of the Star Wars helmets and it's $60, I'll compare that against another Star Wars helmet that's...
If you're still listening to the podcast at this point, you are into it and a fan, and we really appreciate that. If you could do us a solid and subscribe, and do all that stuff, it really helps the podcast grow. And secondly, if you could tag us on Instagram, just take a picture of what part you are at the podcast. If you like it, tell us what you think about it. Tag me at Side Hustle Experiment, and I will definitely share it. Now let's get back to the podcast.
It's also $60, and see that one has a sales rank of 800 and the other has a sales rank of 12,000. And I'm like, well, that tells me a lot of information right there, right? So Keepa or other similar Amazon tools are really good for that. I don't leave it just at Amazon, though. There's other places I go to learn similar things. So, for example, there's a marketplace for Lego, just Lego, called Bricklink. You can go to Bricklink, you can buy Lego, you can sell Lego. And on Bricklink, they show you recent sales. and they show you what the price that it was selling for, and the number of sales. So you can do the same thing. You can compare set A and B. If set A sold 350 units in the last 30 days and set B sold 3,000 units in the last 30 days, right? Immediately you're like, the demand on set B as a whole is 10 times better. So that's a good source of information. I like to look at Google Trends data. I would search for the set number of set A and B, and I would see that more people are searching Google for set A than they are set B. And that, again, tells me a lot of information about the demand, about the amount of interest that's out there for the set. So those are some ways that I like to think about demand. And then for supply, similar tools. I use Keep It to tell me a lot about supply as well, because it can show me the number of offers on a listing. And you might think, why would you look at the number of offers today? Because you're going to hold it for a year or 6 months before you sell it. So why does the number of offers matter? It matters if you compare sets against each other. Once again, right? You're comparing set A with B. Set A has 22 offers on the listing today. And even before retirement, it has 22 offers today. Set B has 300 offers on the listing today. What's that telling me immediately, right? There's way more supply on set B. And so a year from now in retirement, it's likely it's still going to have more supply than set A, right? Even though the picture will change in retirement, this, looking at the number of offers today, doesn't really tell me anything about how many offers are going to be there when I want to sell it. But it does tell me, when I compare two sets against each other, which one has more supply than the other. So those are some things that I check. You can use How Many, the Chrome extension, to look at actual number of offers that, or the number of quantity that the listings on Amazon have. You can also look at the number of listings on eBay. When you do a search on eBay, it'll tell you like 362 listings. Like you can look at that to understand supply, compare sets against each other. So those are some ways that I do it. We also build bots, purposely built bots for this. We have a Discord server where we have actual bots that you search for a Lego set number and it literally does this for you. So we simplify it, but they still do the same thing, right? They're just checking Amazon sales data, checking, Bricklink data to understand supply and demand, and try to make educated guesses on sets that have high demand, low supply.
Do you think Lego likes this stuff? You think they're supportive of the? Because I know shoe markets like the Nike and Adidas, they like hate this stuff, but it seems that Lego doesn't have any issue with this type of thing.
So I would challenge that. I think Nike and Adidas love this stuff, but I know I'm
no, they don't like it. No, I know they don't like it. Yeah.
Well, so I think they put on a face. I think all these companies put on a face that they don't like it, right? But the shortage of something of one of their products, leading to a surge in excitement around that product, is amazing for them, right? And it's like, when I look at the release of the PS5, right, and like Sony made about 1/100th of the number of units that they should have made. The demand was so strong. For 2 years, the thing was sold out, and a lot of people will be like, "Why did Sony mess up so bad?" And I think that was manufactured. Increase the demand by reducing the supply. Because if they make it scarce and people can't get it for Christmas and people can't get it when they want it and people are out fighting over it in Walmart, people are going on TikTok talking about it, and all this pent up energy is built up around the product, and it makes people want it more than anything. And we learn about that with Lego investing, because that's what drives up the price. It's the pent up, like, I really want this thing even though it's scarce. Therefore, I'm willing to pay 3 times the MSRP for it. I believe that most companies that sell physical products, whenever the stuff sells out quick and then there's all this, excitement around it, which the aftermarket is important for, right? The aftermarket contributes a lot to it, because if the price goes up and it becomes valuable, in the mind of the public, the thing itself is more valuable. So when the PS5 sold out, and people were paying $1,000 for them on eBay, everyone around the world then started seeing the PS5 as a more valuable thing, just because the aftermarket, and it was a terrible thing to, some would argue it's a terrible thing. Us resellers might have a different opinion, but you have people out there saying it's terrible to be going out and buying up all the PS5s and then selling them tomorrow for double the price, for $1,000 or whatever. But I don't think Sony were upset by that, because it made the universal opinion of the PS5 to be so much more valuable. And I think the same thing happens with with Jordans. I think the same thing happens with, with certain drops of different sports cards or, Pokemon cards or whatever it may be. Whenever it becomes scarce and it goes up in value on eBay, some people would say that that company must hate the resale market. I don't think that they do. And I think Lego Group love the resale market because the Lego investors are providing like an extra longevity to their inventory, right? Lego Group manufacture for 2 years. During that time, all the shelf space on the retailers is finite, right? Target are only going to give Lego Group a certain amount of shelf space. So Lego Group they're going to fill that shelf space, but then their fan, they want to sell more products to the same person, right? So this fan goes in, buys a couple things, and then next year when they come back, Lego Group wants a whole new set of products so that same fan buys more things. If they don't do that, the same fan is going to go away and never buy any more from them. So they love replenishing new stock, and that's why they have this system of retiring old stuff, bringing out new stuff, and always having fresh products on the shelves. But if that fan can still go and get the thing on the aftermarket from eBay, A, it makes the fan happy because they're able to finish their collection. B, it makes it more likely the fan will come and buy new stuff from Lego Group because, again, they're trying to finish their collection. So they didn't miss out on the Stormtrooper helmet by getting on eBay for 3x the MSRP. And then next year, Lego Group released Princess Leia. The fan is going to want to definitely get Princess Leia because if they're going to buy Stormtrooper for 3x MSRP, they're not going to miss out on the next one that drops. So it drives more demand for future products. And C, Lego Group get to sell us all the products to all the resellers, right? So I'm buying hundreds of thousands of dollars of inventory from Lego Group before the set retires. So they make the sales now. I'm providing free storage for them because they don't need a warehouse or a retail shelf space. I'm going to store it for them and I'll sell it later. All right. So Lego Group get to make the money now. They get to keep the excitement in the marketplace. So, and they also own Bricklink, right? Lego Group own that. It's a resale marketplace that Lego Group owns. So they try to put out this energy that they don't like the resale market. They restrict quantities on lego.com. When you go to try and buy something on lego.com, you can get 3 of them. You can't order 100 of them. Like they restrict quantities. They have these measures in place to try and avoid people bulk buying and stuff like that. That's the face that they put out to the public. I think there's no way in hell that they don't love the resale market because it's so good for them. So that's just my theory, but I think people would disagree.
No, I think you're probably right on the Lego. The only reason I brought up the Nike and the Adidas is because they've put in so many things into place to kill that market. Like I remember it used to be every weekend there was a Nike or a Jordan shoe or a Yeezy, which obviously Kanye's not there, but every year, every week it was something you could make money on. Now it's like that whole market's dead. When Lego's like, not dead. Obviously, if they own the Bricklink thing, they must be at least somewhat supportive of the reselling market. When it seems these shoe companies just – they tried to make it more efficient, I guess. Like, we're going to take all the money. We don't want resellers to take the money. That's just from my understanding. I could be wrong, but that's how I've seen it trend. And I've been selling shoes since 2013. A little kid selling.
You know a lot more than I do. Like, I've never been in a sneaker game, so I couldn't really comment on that or argue on that. I do think it just depends on the economics of it. Maybe there's a difference in with the sneaker drops and stuff. Like, I think they're super finite, right? Like Like if you miss the first launch day, sometimes you can never get them again, right? Isn't that true?
Yep.
So then I guess, it doesn't make any more money for them if all that inventory gets bought up by resellers, they're not going to make any more money. But with the Lego sets, they're available on the shelves for 2 years. If the resellers are in there during that time buying up inventory, Lego Group will make a lot more money, So I guess that's the difference.
100. That's now that you say that, it clicks a lot better. Plus the collectible thing, like you're not collecting like 4 different pairs of shoes a lot of times. Usually people just have collections. It's not like Lego is basically telling you what to collect, like this set, this set, this set. Yeah, it makes way more sense when you put it like that. Because I guess it doesn't help Nike at all. It does drive up hype, but Nike already has all the hype it's ever going to need. So yeah,
true. Yeah,
well, that makes sense.
How do you kind of navigate, I guess, if Lego kind of restricts how much you could buy? Do you have like multiple accounts or do you have other sources?
Yeah, I don't really buy much from Lego. Lego.com is my least used sourcing website for this exact reason. They make it very, very hard it's funny because they're very technically behind in many other ways, but with their website and dealing with quantity limits, they're really advanced. And it's like even we have people in our communities that have tried, even using VPNs to have different IP addresses, different accounts, different credit cards, different everything and IP addresses, and they still got their orders canceled. It seems from Lego.com, a lot of it is based on your shipping address. That's what we've learned over the years. And so you need to have a different shipping address, which a lot of people don't have two places they can ship their inventory to. So if you had another shipping address, a warehouse or something like that, and you did VPN, like all of those measures, you could probably do, duplicates on Lego.com. But even then, you're still going to be restricted, right? Because they have quantity limits of like 3 to 5 units a lot of the time. So you're going to be buying 3 from account A and 3 from account B. That's still not even going to move the needle for me to get 6 units. So I instead choose to just ignore it. And I just don't even try to put energy into Lego.com a lot of the times because I can get the inventory I want from a lot of other places. I can source from Amazon. I can source from Target. I can source from Walmart. I can source from Kohl's, Best Buy, Macy's. A lot of different retailers sell Lego, and it just depends on the deals that are out there. And, a lot of them, they have different quantity limits, but most of them you can work around and they're not nearly as strict as Lego.com. And, some of them are very lenient. You can order a lot. Like on Amazon, you can get high volumes a lot of the time. But on Target, it's a little bit more strict. So it's just a matter of kind of learning the different retailers and what you can do on each one.
I just shipped out some today, actually. Now that I'm talking about this, I forgot completely. I just took it to the post office from Zavvi. I bought them a long time ago, Zavvi. They ship them. They used to ship them all individually. So I just have all these boxes with the number on the outside. I just had to put the thing on it. Like, that was super easy to ship them out. I think that was a big one. I don't know if it still is or not, but that was one I bought a lot from in the past.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you ever buy from Amazon third-party sellers, or you just buy from Amazon themselves?
So it's funny you ask, because just last week I did. It's not something that I've commonly done in the past. But last week I saw someone drop their price significantly on a set that I was loading up on. And so I bought 100 units like immediately because I saw this price. Someone posted it in our community, in our Discord, and was like, and the person who posted it was kind of upset about it because the person tanked the market. And they were like, this person's just dropped their price. It was selling for 70 at the buy box a couple of days ago. Now it's 45. Like we're going to have to wait for 150 units to sell through before it goes back up to the buy box. And the person was upset about it. And I saw that and I'm like, why don't I buy them all for 45? So I bought 100 of them. I didn't quite buy them out, but I bought 100. And then someone else in the community jumped in and bought the other 45 right after me. So we cleaned it out. But that was the first time I'd ever done that actually at scale. I think I bought a couple of units in the past from third party, but I never bought 100 units. I didn't know how to feel about that because obviously the box has been touched multiple times. People have to prep their FBA shipments, get it into the warehouse. Amazon are handling it, storing it, and then sending it back to me. I just had this opinion that potentially the inventory would be damaged or, wouldn't be as good quality. Now, don't get me wrong. Lego sets, like I think when a lot of people first learn about Lego investing, they assume it's like Funko, where you need the box to be like the most beautiful, pristine thing. It's not like that at all. Like I sell Lego sets all day with creases on the box. It's not like that. Lego fans just rip open the box. They don't care. But I don't want stuff. I didn't really like the idea of having FBA labels and stuff on brand new inventory, but I did it anyway, and it came beautiful. Got 100 units, like no problem whatsoever. So I'll probably do it again. I'll just be looking for those opportunities when someone has a lowball price, because typically I don't like to pay above MSRP. And that's another important thing to mention here, because some people think of Lego investing like, oh, the Lego set retired in December. In January, like it was $50, and in January it's $54. Maybe now I'll buy it, and then next year hopefully it'll be $90. That's not how I like to play the game. I don't want to buy it above the MSRP after retirement's already happened. I like to buy it discounted below the MSRP before the retirement. So I would have been, instead of paying that $55 for that set a month into retirement, I would have bought it for $35 a month before retirement. So that's how I approach it. So I very, very rarely pay above MSRP. I only did it with this one set because it's one that I know I'm very, very confident is going to do quite well as an investment. And it was only a couple of bucks above the MSRP. So I was happy to do it. But typically, no.
I meant to ask this earlier on the Lego thing. Do you not care about the free gifts on their website? Because I know I used to stack those up because those would sell for like $80. It's like a ridiculous ROI.
Yeah.
I mean, unlimited, right?
Yeah, there's one. So the new Lego Barad-dûr, the Lord of the Rings set, was released a couple of weeks ago, and the free gift that came with it was selling for $250
Yep.
on eBay. So those free gifts sometimes can be insane, like big time. Yes, I've done very well with them in the past. I've had cases where I've gone to Lego stores around me. I'm lucky to be in the New York, New Jersey area, so I've got a lot of Lego stores, and go and get as many of those free gifts as possible. I've sold a lot of those free gifts for $80, $90, and you literally get them for free when you spend $100. So I go to Lego store, buy $100 of inventory, get a thing that I can go and sell for 80, and I just got the inventory for 80% off. Yes, for sure. The downside to it is scalability. When you're first starting out, I think everyone should be doing it. It's a really good way to get heavily discounted inventory. It's just hard to do it at scale. So if you're trying to invest 100K this year in Lego sets, doing it that way is going to be a lot of work. The quantity limits on Lego.com are going to stop you from getting duplicates of the gift. You'll be able to get a couple of them, but you won't be able to get 20, 30, 40 of those free gifts. Going to Lego stores, you'll be able to get more if you have a lot of Lego stores nearby. But with the driving and the work involved, you still probably won't be able to get, the quantity that you want for the work that goes into it. If you're trying to invest 100K or even 50K potentially. So what I see with the people in our communities is that they start off with their Lego investing journey by doing a lot of that stuff, driving out to Walmart clearance season, for example, in January or July, and getting Lego sets at steep discounts, and getting a lot of the giftful purchases in Lego stores to get great deals on that stuff. But after you hit a certain point for the scalability, you need to just try to focus on getting higher volume for less work. And that's where I'm at now. I don't really play too much with the giftful purchases anymore, even though they are great deals, because I rather buy 200 units of a set that I'm investing in now. I'm just trying to get really high volume, and it's too hard to do it with gifts.
Yeah. This one's going to hurt for you to hear. In 2020, when I bought all that stuff, Lego was less strict with the order quantities, and I had around 30 of these Harry Potter book things, and I was going to hold them for until they hit over $100. And I had all these free gifts. Yeah, I had all these free gifts where they were all over $100. I sent in the shipment, everything got lost. I never got it back. I probably lost like $5,000. I don't know if I've bought Lego since. No. It just made, because I was like, it's free, so I'll just sit on it until it all reaches like ridiculous prices. Every single one got lost. And I was like, man, and now it's not even possible to get like 30 of a free gift anymore. You'd have to go through so much work probably to do that type of thing.
It's difficult. I had 30 of the exact same set. You're talking about the Monster Book of Monsters.
Yep.
Yeah, that was the most that I ever got of a free gift. It was that same one.
Yep.
I have a photo of them all when I was doing the shipment. That's heartbreaking. It might help you a little bit to hear that it really hasn't gone up in price since then. It's still selling for since then it was selling for around 70 on Amazon or 80, and it's still at that price today. So at least if it doubled since then, it'd be more painful.
Yeah, that makes me feel better.
That sucks though. I'm sorry to hear that.
Well, one thing I was wondering too, do you think that, or maybe there is there like investor groups for this thing? Have you ever thought about starting this where you like take in people's capital and be like, listen, you're not getting a return for like a year or whatever, but we're going to sell all this stuff then? Do people do that now?
Yeah. So there's a company that I worked with in the past, because I started my business when I lived in that apartment in New York, and we just didn't have the storage space for, to what we wanted to do. We wanted to grow this thing. And we started off with a closet in our apartment, and I found this company that it's like a prep center, like we all know about prep centers, but it's a prep center that specializes in Lego investing, and they hold your stuff for you. So you ship it to them, they hold it in storage for however long, and then they do the sale for you. So it's almost like a full fulfillment service for Lego investing. So yes, I use them. I did not have a good enough experience with them to recommend them to anybody. I had trouble with them. They sat on inventory for way too long and didn't sell it. Just recently, 3-4 years after I sent them the last shipment, because I stopped using them. I've been selling our own stuff on Amazon for the last 4 years maybe. But years after sending the last stuff, they still had stuff that they weren't selling that were just sitting, So I couldn't recommend them. I don't think there's a good enough service out there that does this that I would recommend. I do think it's a possibility that would happen in the future. I wouldn't start it because I don't want the responsibility of buying stuff for people's money.
Yep.
Because you'd have liability. Like I'd have to have people sign waivers that if this set doesn't go up in value, like I think it will, It's not my fault. Like, I don't want that responsibility. So instead, I just prefer to teach people how to do it. Teach people how to fish, teach them how to pick the right sets. We have group, like we have a Discord group where we meet every month, and we have a lot of that sort of stuff where we give a lot of resources, and coaching to people while they're going through it. We even have awards, like this award next to me. It's like we give awards to people when they hit certain sales values and stuff like that. But that's where I will draw the line. I think I'll never actually do a fulfillment model for people. I just don't think that that's the business that I want to be in.
Yeah, somebody will come along one day, I'm sure, and take in like lots of investors, and it'd be like a mutual fund for Legos. Like you just give this much. It'd be pretty cool. The idea is awesome. I'm sure there's a lot of bottlenecks in it, but I mean, I'm sure that it will happen. I saw an article that came out maybe last year where someone was like talking about it. Like they were just talking about Lego investing, like outperforms the stock market by loads. And then people were like, who's going to start the like fund for this type of thing? So
yeah, it's inevitable. It's
Yep.
inevitable. It's definitely going to happen. But yes, it will be hard to do. And you need to, the payment model, or the like, I guess the fee structure needs to make sense. Because there's a lot of overhead for storing for that time and different things. Like they're going to need a big warehouse, and so yeah, there needs to be enough of a margin there to cover it all. But like I said, Lego has great margins, so as long as you're willing to pay a good chunk of it, like I paid 15% off the top to this company I used before, plus other fees, storage fees, check-in fees, destickering fees, all those things on top of 15% fulfillment fees. So it's not cheap, but the margin is there in Lego to cover it. I just prefer now to use FBA for everything.
Makes sense. What else you got, John? Or anything else?
Yeah, I feel like that's a really interesting concept that you're talking about. I remember listening to like a podcast, and there was an ad, and there is a company that like would get like Jordan's first jersey or something, and basically they collect money, and you could own like part of it or whatever. So I think that's interesting. But a question that I have is, what are some common mistakes that you see people who want to invest in Lego make, and kind of how could they avoid them?
Biggest one is jumping in and just buying stuff, assuming that it all goes up in value, right? I have the benefit, because we've built bots for our private groups, that we have a database, and in the database we've been loading in all this data from Amazon over the last like multiple years now, so I can actually look at like large amounts of data on the entire Lego market and see, like, on a whole, does the market go up over time? And the answer is yes. On a whole, if you just look at the average of all Lego sets on Amazon in general, they broadly all go up in value. However, after you cover your Amazon fees, and after you account for those things, you don't want something that goes up 10%, 15%. You want something that goes up 100%, 150% in the first year, right? Because we also don't want to sit on stuff for 2 years. I like to sell within 6 to 12 months if I can. I don't like sitting on things too long. And so we want turnover, and we want high performers. So the mistake that people make is by jumping in and just going into stores and just, here's a Lego set that looks cool. Like, I think that this one looks good, and just buying whatever. That's exactly what I did when I first started. Like, I walked into Barnes and Nobles and I just bought, there was a Lego architecture Lego set called the Guggenheim. And I'm thinking, like, well, the Guggenheim, like, for architecture fans, people who love architecture, there's no better example of architecture than the Guggenheim, right? It's like such a unique looking building. This must be an amazing investment. I just bought them immediately off the shelves. And just because they look cool, and I just had this assumption. Didn't look at any actual sales demand data. Didn't know what I know now, like, which is that Lego architecture skyline sets do way better than landmark sets. So there's kind of two versions of Lego architecture. There's the ones that like the skyline, like New York City skyline or Paris skyline, and then there's the ones that's based on a building or a monument. And the skylines are better investments. Now I know that. So the takeaway for anyone who wants to get into it really is just to take a moment before you start buying to learn a little bit about it. And that could be watching YouTube videos. That could be, joining one of the communities, and just brushing up on some of the things about Lego that are important to understand before you start. And then also learning not just about which sets to buy, but also how to get them at great prices. Don't go in buying stuff for above MSRP. Like I said, that's just not what we want to do. We want to get it for, as low of a price as possible, to build in a margin of safety, to increase your profit margin big time. So just take those few weeks to start learning the game before you jump in, because it is a bit different than, a lot of other Amazon selling where you can just scan something on Scout IQ and be like, oh, it went green, like this is good. We want to kind of learn a little bit about what we're selling here with Lego investing. And if you just take the moment to learn it, you can do really, really well with it.
Cool. Interesting.
Anything?
I have two last questions. Or unless you has more.
No.
What's the most you ever made on a set, and what's the most you've ever lost on a set?
Yeah. So, you know what? I need to get the perfect example for this because I've been asked this a handful of times and I can never perfectly answer the most that I've made because I don't know the actual real data on it. But I've made, $250 to $300 of profit on individual sales a good number of times. And those are sets that I bought for maybe 200 and then sold for 500. The Stranger Things one comes to mind immediately. That was also special because it was a short hold time. It was 6 months. Bought it for 200, sold it for 500. It's the easiest thing in the world. But then that's the dollar value, the most dollars that I made on a set. But in terms of return on investment, the sets like the TIE Fighter pilot helmet come to mind because that was a $60 purchase price and sold for around $250. So you're talking about like 5x the MSRP, right? So even though I made less dollars on each individual unit of sale than I did on the bigger sets, I made a much better return on investment. So then if you got more of them, if you got 100 TIE Fighter pilots instead of 10 Stranger Things or whatever the math turns out to be, you'll do much better overall because the return on investment is so much better. So those are two great examples, but I've got many of times where I've doubled my money or done 120% return, 130, 140. TIE Fighter pilot was more like 250 or I don't remember the exact return on investment, but it's quite high. Worst examples would be those cases where I decided to liquidate something. So there was a Lego Technic set, the Porsche 911, that we thought was going to retire about 4 years ago. And we bought it at the time. And then it got pushed out. Retirement got pushed out a year. We held it. It got pushed out again. We held it. It got pushed out again. It's retiring this year in 2024. But we sold them all.
Wow.
We sold them all last year at a loss because we got sick of it. We were like, you know what? Let's just take it. Like I think we only took like probably a $15 loss per unit, or maybe a $10. It was like $130 set or something like that. We ended up selling them for $160 or something after Amazon fees. We lost $10, maybe $15 per unit. But then we took our money back, invested it in something else that was retiring last year, that's already making money this year. So it nets out okay. But that's probably an example of one that the most loss we would have made would be something like that. Again, if we had just held it, it is retiring this year. So if we held it to next year, it'd be profitable. But we didn't want the extra 2 years of hold time because we already were too salty about it after 4 years of holding. So we decided to get out.
I had some of those as well. I remember those well.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah,
Yep.
Now that we're talking about this, I had a bunch of Legos. I've probably about well over 40K now that like I'm hearing all this because I just like sets just keep coming to mind. I know I had the Coliseum; it was like $799. I sold it for $1,500, I think, earlier this year, which I had to hold it.
You're well versed in the Lego investing game.
Yeah, no. Now I'm thinking about it, I'm like I'm an idiot. Why am I not doing this? I guess I just don't. I didn't really think about it. I have so much now. Maybe next time I'll go look at it and see how much profit there is because it'd be easy to dump some money into it, especially like join a community and just like kind of see what's retiring because I never had that knowledge about it. I just looked at the sales rank and I was like, it's supposed to be retiring soon. It looks good, but you've explained like way more in depth on that stuff.
Well, let me tell you, like I'm biased because this is my thing, but I think that this is the biggest hidden secret that the Amazon communities are missing. And I know they're not entirely missing it because people are talking about it. Like you've been doing a lot of it. And, I know like Miles, Flip for Miles and stuff does Lego. Like the guy, like people do Lego, but the Lego fans, right? I actually put out a question in my community and I asked the community, were you a Lego fan first and then you became a Lego investor? Or were you like a reseller first and then you discovered Lego was a great item category to sell? And the overwhelming majority, like 95% response was Lego fans turned resellers. Like they were Lego fans first. So the Lego fans know this stuff because it's what they love and they know the different themes and the different sets and they understand what happens with the values. And so Lego fans are realizing that the opportunity, they're becoming Amazon sellers. And because they're coming from being a Lego fan and not knowing anything about Amazon or eBay or reselling, they've got a big learning curve. Like I'm seeing people have to take a long time to learn and brush up on how to do an FBA shipment, or how to get ungated on Lego, and all these different things. And that's why people join our communities, to get our hand holding with that. But if you already know Amazon, like you already have those skills, you're already an e-commerce business owner, Lego is the biggest hidden secret that a lot of people are missing. Like if you just buy the stuff right before retirement, it's amazing. Like, and that's why we pivoted our entire business to it, because seeing your prices go up and not down on your inventory is phenomenal. So yeah, I think for people watching this channel, like it's something they definitely should be looking at.
Yeah. I don't have anything else. John, you got anything else?
That's it, man. Thank you so much for being here, Shane. I really appreciate it. Where can people find you?
Yeah. So I've got a YouTube channel called Brick Bucks. That's brick and then bucks, Bucks for money. Brick is a word that we use for Lego all the time. So it basically means Lego money, Brick Bucks. So they can check me out on YouTube. That would be the starting point. I've also got a handful of other resources. I have a book here that I give for free when people take a free trial of our membership, and they can come into our Discord and learn the ropes and get in there for free, and then get the book for free. So yeah, I think there's a great starting point of just go to YouTube, search for BrickBucks, watch some of those videos, and you'll see what's possible.
All right, cool deal. Thanks so much, guys. Please like, subscribe, and we'll see you on the next episode.
Peace.
Peace.
Thank you, guys.